Hi, this is Swapnil Bharti and we are here at SUSE in Nashville, Tennessee, and today we have with us Kevan. We have known each other for a very long time, but we never sat down to talk because I'm sure that you have a lot to talk about because you are kind of, the core of all the communication that happens. I have to go through you to be able to talk, whether it's Nils or any community member. So tell us what is it like, to whatever you do?
Yeah. So SUSE is a great place to work in terms of communication, right? Which is what I do. I'm not so much. It doesn't make it sound like I'm a little bit of a gatekeeper, which I'm not really that. I'm more of a facilitator, right? To make sure that people can talk to our executives and product and solution people, partner people, so that the word gets out about what SUSE is about. Because we can be creating the most innovative, most exciting stuff there is. But if nobody knows about it, it doesn't do us any good. It doesn't do the customers or partners any good. So we want to communicate that. And that's really what I'm about, is trying to help put the right messages together so people can understand what we do that might facilitate business. Whether that's selling something to a customer. When I say selling, subscription, we're open source, right? But getting a solution that is right for a customer that they know about, or helping a partner know what we're doing so that they may want to connect up, help put together something that's also going to help a customer.
So you don't deal with just the press, you deal with so who all do you deal with?
So actually, primarily what I do is deal with the press. But so we're working with journalists to help you and your colleagues understand what we do, and so that you can create communications to your audiences, whether it's video or whether it's written or whatever it may be, sometimes audio podcasts, whatever that is, so that people can understand what we're about, something that makes sense to your audiences. So we cater to or streamline and create our communications. Hopefully it's helpful to you in order to retell that story to people who follow you and listen to what you do. But also, work very tightly with our social media people, work very tightly with our other folks who are working in other marketing activities, so that we're all on the same page and we get the same kind of messages out there, so we're not confusing people about what SUSE is doing.
Right. You mentioned three formats, video, written, and podcast. Since we are talking emerging technologies, so as a communicator, what kind of emerging trends you are seeing when it comes to delivering the message? Because sometimes the format itself, medium itself is a message. Of course, written is the oldest form. So what do you see where the trend is going, or where you see you can push your message in the best way?
Yeah, that's a great question. Things are changing rapidly, but it's ironic a little bit. You mentioned written is the oldest current medium that we still use, really, but it's not going away. Obviously, it's just how does that get delivered?
Actually, I will correct myself. I think it's not the written; it was the spoken word. In the early times, also, remember?
Yeah, that's true.
Unless only Chinese came up with writing, it was stories, but fables and all those things were told. So,
yeah,
please.
But as far as mass communication,
it's
write it down, scrawl it on a rock.
You cannot distribute the spoken words. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And that's not going away. It's just what are we writing it on now, and how are we delivering it to people? So writing continues to be so important, but websites and social media and all of these various ways that people in various apps that people use in order to access these kinds of things. Somebody though has to create the story. Somebody has to write down that story and communicate it and put it in those places where the audiences can get it. Video is very popular, as you know. That's why we all invest in video communications, short snippets online and via these various technology outlets are very popular. People like to watch those. Audio podcasts, very popular. Radio is not dead, but that's for radio is typically local, some nationally syndicated stuff, but podcasts, people will download a lot of podcasts, listen to those in the car, for example, or during a commute on the train or whatever, on a plane even, take the place of that radio, listen to specifically what they want to do. So all of these things we take advantage of so that people can choose the medium that they like
Right.
in order to hear about what we're doing.
And soon the VR is coming,
Yeah.
I'm already looking at, and 4 years from now, I should be shooting these interviews in VR so people can actually feel that they are sitting in front of Nils watching, listening to his, interview. And personally, as there is saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, So when I look at video, that's worth millions of words. Because sometimes each format has its own limitation also. So sometimes, you have to show a picture with an article.
Right.
And sometimes you have to actually show how it works. So then you need video. So I think depending on the content, you may have to choose the format.
Right.
Yeah.
There's two pieces to balance there. What your content is and how best to tell that whatever that story is that you have.
Right.
And the viewer, listener, reader, what are they most interested in, and how much time do they have to look at it?
Right.
Sometimes 140 to 280 characters, right, can be enough to tell that story,
Right.
or maybe that's all you have,
Right.
because that's all that somebody you want to reach is looking at.
Right.
And so, you kind of have to be able to go across the spectrum to reach the people the various ways, and your messages have to be consistent. You can't tell a totally different story
In a different format.
Right, in a different format.
If you look at the trend, how people are consuming content, their attention span is getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
And when I look at myself, even the latest iPhone has the biggest screen. I cannot read a 2,000-word story there.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a communicator, have you also put some efforts into understanding how people are consuming content?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we keep track because we think we have a pretty good idea of who we want to talk to. I guess we discover new people all the time, but we know who we want to talk to, and so we try to measure via the things that the media that we use, right? Whether it's written or video or audio, whatever it is, and the various accounts and applications that we use to get that word out. We kind of track how many people are looking at these things, how many people read this, how on a base level, even as we're talking to journalists, are journalists responding to what we give, and are they passing it along? Because sometimes they don't, right? I mean, you get stuff, I'm sure, nobody cares, right? And so you don't do anything with it, and so we have to make sure that happens. So we track everything. We see who's paying attention, who's reading, who's opening, who's watching, and if they're not, then we'll tweak that, maybe move to a different platform a little bit. We've abandoned platforms, and we're finding new ones all the time.
Right. I mean, we are actually here at a conference, which is like adding one more layer to video, which is like, fourth dimension. You can actually feel the person, see the person, touch the person.
Right.
And this is the best, when you meet face to face. I think that is the best form of communication, because what you can deliver when you're looking at somebody's face.
Yeah.
So what would be the word look like, where people can just, the VR headset, because then I think that is the strongest message, where you can be there versus reading. Because I think it does change. I have known a lot of members from Open SUSE community and SUSE. We interacted over emails, we talked over phone, but the chemistry changed totally when we met face to face. When we spent 2 minutes when we shook hands.
That's right.
So.
Yeah, we haven't found a great way to replace that yet, because people have tried, video conferencing and all that kind of stuff, but face-to-face has not gone away as being important. I think it's diminished a little bit, and with distributed workplaces, because everybody working for companies now. You heard in the keynote yesterday, Niels talked about
100.
We're in 34 countries, 75 different nationalities.
Yes.
When we were in 34 countries and 1,750 employees.
Yes.
You break that all out, there's no gigantic office center where we can all be face to face all the time. So you've got to do that, though. You've got to get there. You've got to come to a conference once in a while and see people. I'm gonna be fascinated to see where the technology is going to take us to make is it holograms? I don't know. Something.
Exactly. Let's put in a spot, it's a kind of uncomfortable question. How do you feel, how do you react when you get a negative story about SUSE?
A negative story?
You don't get that many.
We don't. We don't get that
but
many.
Still, is it because, I'm asking a serious question because is it because the journalists did not take time to do research? Is it because the journalists never even bothered to reach out to you and ask questions, and it's just, they had their own preconceived notion and they just come up with a story? So whenever you do come across what are the things that you see there, and you're like, hey, I could have solved this problem?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are kind of two kinds that I've seen of if we're going to be in a negative story, there are two kinds of stories. One is going to be security related, that involves some kind of open source software that has maybe a security problem. Those things happen, right? And we've seen some things that maybe involved hardware vendor that affects our customers, but they affect other people's customers. So it's not specific to SUSE, but we work with the community and we fix those problems. So that's one, and so that's not so bad in terms of it's not specific to SUSE. The other one is, as you say, maybe a journalist who doesn't know us very well, doesn't maybe not know the industry very well, doesn't understand open source, those kinds of things, and have not necessarily taken the time to talk to us or to get educated a little bit more about it. They're doing their best, but don't know as much, and they'll misstate something. They'll misinterpret. They'll talk to one person who and give anecdotal evidence of whatever point of view they're trying to get across. And so that's the other piece. If someone says something negative, they haven't really looked into, paid attention to who we are. I mean, believe it or not, we used to feel people talk about SUSE, if it's good, maybe in a negative light, the SUSE from 10, 15 years ago, when we were part of another organization, and completely different today, completely different for the last 7 or 8 years, but they just haven't looked recently. So that's what we find. Other than that, we don't get a lot of negative stuff. We are, because we are so open, because we are so interested in talking to whomever, customers, partners, media, whomever it is, and fixing things if things need to be fixed. Hopefully, we don't have too much negative stuff. I've always said, the best way to do PR is to do good things. The best way to get good media coverage is to do good things. We don't spin. We're not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. This is who we are, trying to do good things.
These days, I have personally seen a trend of YouTubers. A lot of YouTubers they are replacing. There's a guy named Philip DeFranco. He has millions of views, and he talks about news. So a lot of people are also moving to YouTube, but the thing is, once again, they don't have time to do the research to actually call up the company and do that. So what is your advice, as a communicator, to people who are trying to build career in the journalism, that, okay, this is what you should do to get it right?
I think you've already hit on education, right? Educating yourself on, talk about what you could, learn about what you want to talk about before you talk about it. Before you shoot a video and post it or whatever it is. Get out there and talk to people, get out in the industry, go to events like this, and journalism school, if you're really serious about it, I think that's irreplaceable, to have that kind of some kind of education and training like that, where you kind of understand how things work. You can understand, just anything goes to get followers. That's not a good long-term plan if you want to have serious followers, where people want to come to you for real content, to understand something about technology, understand about a particular segment of the industry, whatever it is. Make yourself an expert. It takes a while. If you want to be an expert in everything, some people want to come across as an expert in everything. That's very difficult to do, because that's a career's worth of experience. But pick a spot. Pick an area that you want to be an expert in, and learn up. Talk to a lot of people, get educated, and have a lot of conversations, and then start translating those into video and those kind of things. And if you're good at it, people are going to want to follow you. People are going to watch you. If you're not, they're not. So then you got to go back to square one and figure out maybe a different area. I don't know. But
what kind of evolution have you seen of journalism? Because you have been doing this for a while now. We came back all the way from those print magazine, where we used to have advertorial kind of things, to the totally new models. So can you quickly kind of what evolution have you seen of journalism?
Yeah, that's a great question. The journalism has changed so much during my time of my career. Going, as you say, from print and mail, we communicated back and forth with snail mail, and then phone followed by phone calls. So just the way we communicate with each other has changed so rapidly. But print publications, particularly in the United States, print publications, technology publications, there's so very few that are done in print anymore. Even, I think, consumer stuff has gone way down. But, daily newspapers, that kind of thing, that's a huge way people are delivering the news, and then how people are consuming it. You know, they used to go to a website to see it. Now, I mean, on a desktop computer, and now they're looking at it on their phone or other device. You know, but still somebody has to put that content together. Somebody has to write that stuff. Somebody has to shoot that stuff, and then it's just the delivery has changed. You know, that's really it. The delivery mechanisms have changed. Still, it's put together a lot in the same ways. You know, journalists still doing hard work to talk to people and gather stories and kind of get to what's the important stuff here and put it in a way that's consumable, and then getting it on the right platform for people to consume it.
Before we wrap this up, and I have been asking this question to everybody, what are your hobbies?
My hobbies, that's a good question. You know, my hobbies for quite some time now really revolve around family stuff. Right, doing things with my family is number one, but you know, we do a lot of sports kind of stuff. You know, I've got my family. We play a lot of basketball and that kind of thing. We do a lot of that together, and we like to travel. You know, go places together as a family and see new things. So I put those things with sports and travel, really taking up my free time with the family.
Awesome, Kevin. Thanks for talking to me today. And I think I should make this a regular, because we can talk about, you know, the evolution of press and journalism and PR.
Yeah, awesome. We'll do it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, man.